Thank you, Simon, CEC ArtsLink, for having me. Thank you, Ashley, Artist Freedom Initiative. I'm very happy to be with you today. My name is Yohann Floch. I'm representing On the Move. On the Move is a Europe-based organization gathering 88 members from Europe, Northern America, from Asia. And we are a membership organization focusing on the circulation of artists, so cultural mobility. And we try to study, tackle many issues related to international activities. My mic is not working. Oh, thank you. Okay, it's better. Yeah, you hear me? Yes. I'm not gonna start again. I'm French and I'm jet lagged. So, the idea for this segment is for me to present a little bit what we do, and especially a massive study we are currently developing. On the Move is very famous in the artistic community because we are posting a lot of open calls for participation, so artists willing to apply to a residency in Chile, watch our website, an artist willing to present their work in a dance festival in Belgium, also consult our website. We have a lot of opportunities, so we are very famous for that. And we're also very famous for the guides we publish very regularly to help artists, art workers and their organization to find money. And well, very popular topic, I guess. So, next slide. I'm going to focus on this research that started a year ago, and it's a big-scale research where we ask researchers with lived experience of relocating to actually study the situation of artists at risk and cultural professionals that are resettled. And our secret agenda, which is not very secret, is to make sure that we better or create new programs, new funding programs, new residency programs, new tools, new guides to make sure that this situation of this community is better. We started with the first study published at the beginning of the year, where we scoped all the literature available, reports, studies, policy documents, toolkits, guides, etc., focusing on our research. Next slide. We tried to adopt a very broad approach, but we really wanted to focus on the latest resources available, so from 2020 onwards. Next slide. And our idea was to study all the things we had in common from different contexts. So to try to see in this scoping review what were the needs of the artists and or the organization that support them. We tried to map all the the common elements and needs and challenges from testimonies, from the literature available, really. And of course, what was interesting, I think, is that in this first publication, we had a really big overview of what were the key recommendations to the field. So we decided to, next slide, go to another step, which was analyze the political discourse around at-risk and displaced artists. Try to see the ministers, the politicians, the mayors, what were the official documents mentioning at-risk and displaced artists for arts councils, ministries in charge of cultural affairs. So to try to see, at least in Europe, what was the official discourse and the narrative around this particular community, and how these governments, local or national governments, were justifying their support toward these communities. Next slide. Of course, a lot of learnings, as you can imagine, not always positive, as I'm sure you are aware, that there are quite a lot of discrepancies between the values that are showcased or the discourses and the public statements and then the reality of the support. Next slide. We can go through many takeaways, but of course, depending on the crisis we are talking about, if it's the Ukrainian crisis or the Afghan crisis, of course, the response is very different. From this quite illuminating research, we went through, next slide, a third phase. And this third phase is really how do we study cases, support programs existing in our cultural field, with the idea of studying what many of you are doing, Artists at Risk Connection, Tamizdat, and many support programs, emergency measures, residencies, but also more long-term programs. And the idea for us is to populate the culture field with good practice examples, but also to try to compare the programs and the context and make sure we fully understand what are the conditions that are offered. So when we offer an emergency residency programs, how do we select the artist? Who are we selecting? Are we selecting because of the emergency of the crisis the artists face, or are we factoring in artistic quality and artistic excellence? So try really to understand what are the conditions attached to all these support programs, but also the continuity or discontinuity that we observe. Let's go. So you will be able to read all of this. All these chapters are fantastic. They are between 12 and 18 pages, so very accessible. You can pick. Probably you will navigate some of the examples you know, because some of them, of course, are from America. Next slide. And later today, you will have a presentation by Marianne de Vlink, who is here and will contributed to this research. In all these case studies, comparative analyses, focus groups, interviews, etc., our purpose was to really try to see what works. So because we all know now the needs of the artist, we all know the conditions, we really wanted to focus on what works and what doesn't work, and try to see if some of the initiatives that you are basically implementing are replicable, are upscalable, and what we could come as concrete actions to support better artists that are at risk or resettled. So the last phase is the phase that we are entering now, is a phase where our researchers, 30 people, will grow. We will welcome more researchers, but also more experts from the field to be able to work on actionable plans. And in these actionable plans, can continue, we started to list a series of tools, what we call instruments in French. So instruments, policy instruments or tools, you know, programs, whatever you want to call that. But the idea is to design collectively tools that will help us better address the needs or answer the needs of this particular community. So as you can see, it's quite broad. We start at the UN because why not? But of course, we go towards the EU and their support mechanism that we can try to bend and influence to create a new funding program. We want to have more national residency networks that could potentially grow and welcome more artists in emergency situation. Just like we can imagine creating funding programs or grants to support organization and artists where they are, so before they resettle and travel in other contexts. So this is an overview of this, of what we've been, doing with many of you, because many of organizations in the room are close to us, either because they are members of On the Move network, but also because they are inspiration, and we tapped into either the reports and the studies you've been developing, the needs you analyzed, or the recommendations that you put forward. Of course, all of this is contextual, and I'm sure you're aware that the context in New York City, I would say in America, is very different from the context in the UK or in broader Europe. But we try each time to design or propose very practical, operational actions that hopefully can be adopted by as many of us as possible. Thank you very much.